On this week's GTA 6 o'clock, the Switch 2 and GTA 6.
But perhaps more interestingly is that GTA 5 wasn't mentioned.
Is Mindseye a GTA rival?
Some of the shots in the trailers that they've released did look quite a lot like a shot that you would see in a GTA trailer.
And GTA 6 marketing from within GTA Online?
We have seen this type of mechanic used before.
It's all here on this week's GTA 6 o'clock.
Hello and welcome to episode 68 of GTA 6 o'clock, the world's most in-depth and best connected GTA 6 show. I'm JJ, your host, and we're a further week into 2025, and with only 3 weeks of April to go, are we inching ever closer to trailer 2? Yes, we are, and I can say that is a fact because even if the trailer isn't coming soon, we are inching closer to it with every passing week. And speaking of waiting for things, let's not wait any longer to introduce my co-host. It is Dan Dawkins.
It is I, Dan.
Hello, Dan. So it's been another week, as we say, another week inching closer towards trailer 2 at some point. Any potential dates you want to throw out there that we didn't discuss last week?
Well, I mean, days that I think mean something, probably not that many. I mean, we could mention, if you were so inclined, that today, as you listen, if you're there at the starting gate, is International ASMR Day, which I contemplated reading out in ASMR fashion, but didn't, because it would be weird.
Shall I
try? Do it.
Hello and welcome to ASMR Day. That's maybe too quiet. I don't really know how to do it.
I feel like it's weird, and in such a contrast to the growly voice with which you begin.
Well, it's what you get on this show. You get a
the heights and the lows,
spectrum of everything.
And what other days are we unlikely to make any difference for trailer 2?
Well, I think the interesting thing here is that April doesn't have any kind of significant big things coming up, right? I mean, I picked out some Tuesday and Thursday events that the trailer may or may not fall on. April the 10th is International Safety Pin Day. So get all those safety pins out.
I mean, how?
And April 17th, International Bat Appreciation Day. Now, I'm assuming this is bat the animal and not, bat the weapon. But who knows? Could be. What? International Baseball Bat Appreciation Day.
Negan from The Walking Dead's International Bat Appreciation Day.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? There are, of course, currently no plans for any kind of Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo showcase, state of play, update, that kind of thing. So there's not much going on in April, which could pave the way for it being a good month to do something significant. But, we will see, I think. Let us know if you've got any potential dates in the comments below. But something that did happen this month, Dan, last week, in fact, was the Switch 2 reveal. Anyone who watched it may have noticed one or two things. One of them, GTA 6 was not mentioned or listed in their games montage that ran during that showcase. Silksong was in there to say it was coming in 2025, one of the highest wishlisted games on Steam currently, but no mention of GTA 6. Now, I would suggest that this is because the Switch 2 definitely can't run GTA 6, so it will not be coming to that platform. But perhaps more interestingly is that GTA 5 wasn't mentioned there at all either. And you would think, given Rockstar and Take-Two's history, that when a new console comes around that is, as people are saying, on a base level about as powerful as a PS4 Pro, that could run GTA. Why not release it again? But that wasn't listed in there at all. I don't know if we can read anything into that or not, but have you got any thoughts?
No, I guess you could say that GTA is the most adult of Rockstar's games is probably not a good fit for the traditional demographic profile of Nintendo's games. It is, truthfully, and I mean this really, generously, it's a more kid-friendly console.
Sure.
And that's probably not their prime market. And, like you said up top, the bigger thing is, technically, it's never been the most powerful console. Switch 2's power, you could argue up or down, but it's not, probably not as powerful as even the PS5, certainly not as powerful as PS5 Pro. could it run? Actually, no. And the question of could it run GTA 6 is very much apocryphal, because we don't actually know really how GTA 6 actually looks or what it requires of a machine. So it's too early to say, I think. But what is clear is that, yes, it has not appeared just yet.
Which I guess inevitably leads us to the pricing conversation and how some of the games during the Switch 2 presentation were listed. Mario Kart, potentially their biggest release, has been put up for £75 or $79.99, which is sort of the real shock in this whole thing. Now, that is $10 higher than the most expensive Nintendo published game on Switch, which was Tears of the Kingdom. There were some other Switch 2 games from Nintendo, like Donkey Kong Bonanza, which was like £65 or $70. And other Switch 2 edition games that were announced, also costing $79.99, were Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Nintendo Switch 2 edition, plus Jamboree TV, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo Switch 2 edition. The Switch itself is coming out on June 5th, costs $49. No, it doesn't. That would be very cheap. $449.99. Although there's, as I'm sure you know, a load of things going on with tariffs in the US and what President Trump may or may not be imposing on certain countries, which might cause those prices to go up. I don't think they're going to go down. So that's probably your baseline. Now, of course, pre-orders were also stopped in the US for the Switch 2 until some of this settles down a bit or not. So given all of those things, I would suggest that it feels likely at this point that GTA 6 might come out with a similar kind of price tag at $79.99, £75, or maybe more, given what we can see now based on the Switch 2 pricing.
I'm going to say what I basically said on the newsletter last week. The first thing to say is that as we speak, the current accepted top level price for PS5 and Xbox Series X games is basically $70. Like $69.99, $70. That is still the baseline. What Nintendo has done is kind of their own thing, and they've in their points in history when they've had flexible pricing and their cartridges being more expensive. So I don't think necessarily one thing informs the other necessarily. What I do think we are in danger of doing is talking Rockstar into a thing that they hadn't actually planned to do. And I feel quite strongly that this all began with analyst Matthew Ball, who wrote his annual video game analysis report. It's very well respected. And he basically run it as some people in the industry are hoping that GTA 6 is more expensive, because then it allows all of us to charge more and solves a lot of our problems around, games are expensive to make. We need to sell more of them or charge more for them, or the economics doesn't add up. I totally get that. And I think it's a study in how the internet news cycle works, how social media works, is that people took that, span it into not what it was, but almost something that became like this guy's prophesizing or saying this will happen, as opposed to him reporting what he'd heard or someone had asked him. Then it becomes its own meme factory of people. And this is exactly what happened. We spin it forward a few months. People instantly couldn't wait to join the dots between GTA $100 ? And Switch 2's more expensive. And by virtue of doing that and making memes around it, and there were loads of memes of like people sharing, people swooning, falling over, CEOs putting on like diamond encrusted rings and suits and all this sort of thing. And I think people are like, they're so obsessed with getting the outrage hits and the anger and the clicks really from chasing this thing, because they know people don't want it. But the danger is, I think, you anesthetize people to the reality of it actually happening, to the point where a thing that I think that the Rockstar, I think at Christmas time would have gone, can we do it? Probably yes, but it's going to cause public outrage. But we've almost gone through publicly, and people might be aware of this concept, like the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross change curve, which is used to describe a bereavement. which has got essentially 5 stages that you work your way through until you come to peace with this thing that's happening that's a major change, as in like a tragedy, basically. Now, we've almost worked publicly through most of the stages of that through memes and despair things that to the point where I think Rockstar might go, at January, this didn't feel possible. Do you know what? Maybe it could work, because people have already been softened up over months to the very idea we can jack the price. I think that's worrying, and I think if you're out there creating lol GTA $100 memes, I hate to say it, we're part of the problem, because we're putting that thought into the consciousness and laying the ground psychically for if they just dropped it out of nowhere and no one's expecting it, the outrage would be so extreme they'd be thinking twice. Even though, GTA is the special case and we've said it, right? Of course people would pay that money for it. But I think the kickback would be so much higher had the ground not been sort of seeded or salted in advance. So I would say, like, if you don't want it to cost that much, stop making funny memes about it and joking about it, because you're honestly open. I don't want to blame anyone particularly, because I know no one's out there saying I want to pay $100, but we're going to accidentally open the door to Rockstar making this decision, I think.
But surely Nintendo being out there basically using a test ground of going, some of our games are £75 helps with all of that thing and helps you get through they've basically caused the initial outrage themselves. So now even if it does end up costing £75, like the same as some of the Switch games, it's not going to be an issue. You're just like, well, that's, Nintendo did it, so I guess that's fine.
I think so. I just think Nintendo they're obviously in the same market. They're selling games, but I think Nintendo consoles and the fact they're cartridges and this hard memory cost just means they're a little bit different. There's not a test case for this within the console market as we know it. So Rockstar will be pushing that boundary with PS5 and Xbox Series X if they decided to do it. And I'm not saying like they will or they won't. Actually, I'm starting to think more that they will now. But I think it is partly because we're socially conditioning ourselves to be ready for it, almost to the point where, for now, Rockstar, it's much easier for them to do. That's all I think. It's just much easier for them to do and to justify. And when it happens, everyone will go, "Ha! I knew it," as opposed to "What the." But what? That work's already been done. We've already lived out that psychic drama, as I say, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So that's what worries me. And I would be, if you don't want it to cost $100, saying a lot more loudly on social media, I will not pay this or I don't want it. Because they're the market signals that will stop this happening, potentially.
Yes. They
don't have to listen. They might just go, yeah, whatever, you're going to buy it. We know you are tough bananas. But people need to toe the line. This is what happens anyway, like a football club. It takes fans uniting with a consistent message to get people at the top to pay attention. It's going to take a community coalescence of opinion to stop something that's now generated its own momentum.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm probably in the camp of, I feel like if what I assume is going to happen, a $80 price tag for a new Switch game goes down well, and that becomes, Nintendo's fastest selling game ever, you'd look at that and go, well, why can't we make our game $80, which is going to be one of the fastest selling games ever, probably the fastest selling game. Like, it just makes sense. Like, you'd go, this game has taken us so much longer to make and cost us so much more money. Of course, we're going to price it at least the same price as the other most expensive games on the market. It feels like, that happening opens the door a lot wider than it would have done if they had been priced as standard, basically. And, you have to remember that GTA 5 launched with a price tag of $60 for the standard edition across most platforms. But that was back in 2013, which was pretty much $60 was about the average price for a AAA game back then. And we've had a lot of changes since then to, the world economies and everything. So it costing a bit more than that probably feels all right to me. But it's a debate that could go on for hours, and we do not have hours on this episode.
Do you know what? And I think this is actually something I've not done, but we should do. You could see if this is factored in to Rockstar's numbers, because they'd have made budgets and predictions for the year ahead. Because the difference is if they ship, let's say, 200 million copies at launch or in the launch window, like they did with GTA 5, 200 million times 10 is a number that's significant to the bottom line. I think that would already be so. I mean, maybe what I'm saying is let's look particularly at the May earnings call, because it's a number you can't hide. 200 million. It's a load of money. It's like, if I'm not miscalculating, like $2 billion. That's 20 to 30% of their entire year's revenue. That's so huge. That's such a huge number. Like so I guess the point would be, is that number already within their predictions, and is it something they were like previously thinking about or not? I think we could see it if it was. So like, we'll go away and do that thinking, but it's just so huge. That $10, but it's $10 times 200 million units, and that is a lot of money.
Well, that gives us even more reason to think about the May earnings call then, not least that we may or may not have a trailer or a delay around that time. So let's see. Now let's talk about something that is potentially shaping up to be a GTA 6 rival, or, I've written here, at least a stopgap to that game. We're talking about Mindseye, which is a narrative-driven single-player adventure thriller set in the near-future fictional desert city of Red Rock. Now, Mindseye is being developed by Builder Rocket Boy, which is a studio based in Edinburgh, in Scotland, by Leslie Benzies, who was the game's director on Grand Theft Auto games. It's been touted as a tight-paced, story-driven experience designed to be completed in around 16 hours, and is coming for PlayStation 5, Windows, Xbox Series X and S on June 10th. Now, some of the shots in the trailers that they've released did look quite a lot like a shot that you would see in a GTA trailer, which I guess makes sense given the heritage of the studio and that kind of thing. But I think you can say what you want about this game, and I'm sure you're going to, Dan. But they are doing some interesting things, I think. But from a game perspective, it looks a bit like a GTA game, but obviously from that description feels a lot more focused and more story-driven, perhaps, than a huge open-world sandbox type thing. And I think the interesting thing that they are doing, or that has been reported that they're doing, is you're going to be able to create and modify missions with Arcadia, which is their like no-code editing tool in the game. And it's described as, if you want to flood Red Rock with zombies and create a survival mode, go for it. Edit levels and missions, add enemies, and reshape Red Rock into anything, which is effectively saying, we've set up these missions in the game, but now, because we've got this editor in the game, you can effectively go in and change all of the parameters you want to completely change it into something else, which led me to thinking, does this type of freedom and these type of creation tools, could it be something that we might see in GTA Online? And is this something that has been carried over from thinking, when Leslie Benzies was currently at Rockstar, to a new project of like, this would be really cool? Because I think we're seeing some of that in GTA Online already, right?
So yes, like GTA Online already lets you create custom missions. I think it's fairly rudimentary. You can, say, drive the car to here and run away from the cops or whatever it is, or create custom maps and servers, and that's pretty established. Mindseye is interesting for me because on one hand, it's the most 2008 game pitch ever, because you don't see now many, I guess, like AAA looking video games that are just, and I use this in quotes, just a 16-hour single player mission. For example, I probably said on the show, I'm playing God of War Ragnarok. That is not 16 hours long. Yeah. I feel like I've been playing it for years. And that's good. In a way, it's good, but that's the new expectation. Sony have created this thing of like, single player games have to bloat and bloat and bloat and go on forever, and that's just the way it's done. So I'm quite refreshed by the fact they're going, no, it's like it was in 2008. It's high quality, it's fairly tight, fairly scripted, goes on for 15, 16 hours, bish bosh, you're done. Now, what isn't very 2008 about this is what they're talking about in terms of the creator tools. Now, they shared some of this on their various social channels. And James, please step in if I start getting into muddling this all up.
I will try.
But they're saying basically in Mindseye, you'll be able to create and modify missions with Arcadia, which is their no-code editing tool. Now, the words no-code editing tool are words I've rarely used ever. I guess what that essentially means is it's creating missions and editing without having to be clever. You just drag and drop and do things and make it pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it'll have loads of systems in it, like AI systems and weather and that kind of stuff that normally you would have to go in and actually write, like C++ code in to make those things happen.
Yes.
But with this, what you get to do is like put a marker down and say, once player crosses this line, activate zombies or something like that. So it's very much like drag and drop, click, tick boxes, that kind of thing.
I will actually say it's very 2008 to use the words no code as if somehow that would even be a consideration. Can you imagine a game said, if you can do this, brackets, if you can use C++?
Well, yeah.
Of course not. So then they're saying, like, for example, you can flood Red Rock, the location, with zombies and create a survival mode. Go for it. Edit levels and missions, add enemies, and reshape Red Rock into anything. Anything's a big word. So I feel like that the proof will be in the pudding with that. And it looks like there'll be the single player version of Mindseye, and then these tools that let you create, I guess, capsule missions. And in fact, we were just looking off air at someone from the game describing it akin to Minecraft custom maps. Is that right?
Custom servers, yeah.
Custom servers. And that in my mind, I was sort of racing to the Mario maps you can make. Is it Mario Maker? You can make cool maps and have people play with that. That's cool and like a good idea. It really is about the level of detail. I know there's a lot of memes around GTA custom missions and how they're basically a billion versions of the same thing because you can't really make them that different. So I wonder how far this will go. And I guess ultimately the question will be, is this some sort of precursor or prelude to what they may or may not be doing with GTA 6's version of GTA Online? I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, that's the however many $1 billion question, isn't it? It's like, what new things are they going to add into sort of GTA Online's creator tools to allow people to do whatever they want? Like, it's already a pretty powerful thing that we've got going where people are creating maps and stunt jumps and all of that kind of stuff themselves. But is it going to bring in a new tool set that opens up even more customization and even something where, you can effectively do some kind of story-based, almost single-player mission where you're like, do these things and then these trigger points happen, and that kind of stuff would be really interesting and would, ultimately prolong the life of GTA Online, whatever it becomes, if you're allowing players to essentially create their own stories within that universe. It could be huge, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, and I also think, like, if they have got, and I guess this is the reason they purchased 5M, right?
Yeah.
Is because of the role-playing service and where that could go and that level of stuff. Quite honestly, do they even need to talk about it this year or even for years? Because you can imagine trying to explain something as complex as that at the same time as we still haven't got trailer 2. So they haven't even talked about the GTA experience as we envisage it to be. There's so much to talk about, probably, about what the single-player game, inverted commas, whatever that is, without going, oh, and by the way, we've got this mind-blowing online editor, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this. That's too much information, and people don't need it. Like, there probably are some big plans, but they would also probably be wise to sit on them. And I can't believe I'm advising Rockstar to sit on plans. I'm laughing as I say it.
Sit on those trailers. Don't worry about it.
If you've not thought about it, guys, maybe sit on some stuff. That would make sense for this. And an interesting aside, I was talking to someone at a games industry event, and we were talking about what GTA Online will be and what it should be. And like I'd said, well, like the bar has been raised by Fortnite. And Fortnite now like owns the social space. Like lots of kids grow up, that's where they go to hang out. There's, like we've talked about, concerts happen there and lots of other different cool things. And then sort of saying, surely GTA want to be in on the action and do their own version of Fortnite. And the guy I was talking to said, weirdly, he said, if they do that, I'd be disappointed that it wasn't daring enough. So that's an interesting way to look at it as, is it enough merely to replicate and usurp Fortnite? Or do they have to somehow go a level beyond? And I almost can't comprehend what the level beyond would be. And as I say, that's probably bigger than this podcast and definitely a difficult thing to describe before the game even gets launched, especially if they're combating social media anger about an $80 price tag.
Yeah. And like you say, before we've seen anything about GTA Online at all, and that will inevitably get its own separate trailer, its separate explainer, like as we've seen before with their previous releases. Separating the two things makes sense. Like you say, you do all of the single player stuff first, and once people have settled that in their minds, then you go, don't forget about multiplayer and online. Like, I think those are going to be very separate beats, but let's wait and see. Which leads us nicely onto GTA 6 marketing from within GTA Online. Now, this little headline has come via an email from Tenny. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I apologize if I'm not. Who said, I've been a listener since the first days of GTA 5 o'clock. I have a theory that could potentially make a good discussion on an episode. How could Rockstar use GTA Online to market GTA 6? The company is in a unique position, having a thriving online, evolving multiplayer game to talk to their players, which got me thinking on whether we could see a GTA 6 prologue as a GTA Online update. There's obviously many logistical hurdles to do with timing, storylines, etc., but I think it would be really cool to have a new character introduced in GTA Online who is a main or side character in GTA 6. I'm thinking along the terms of Lamar from 5 or Brucey from 4. When we meet them in the DLC as a primary mission giver, and it ends with them saying something along the lines of, well, I need to do some stuff in Leonida now, see you later.
And then go, waka waka.
Yeah, maybe it would be a different line to that, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
They then go on to say maybe the character doesn't even need to reference the events of the DLC in 6 specifically, but it gives us some background and maybe some hints as to what the character is like. And then there's a little bit on if it gets delayed, announcing the DLC could be a good thing to say, hey, we're sorry about we're doing it, but actually we're going to introduce you to Lucia's best friend in this upcoming update of GTA Online in the next few weeks. Or Rockstar could keep it a secret and link the 6 discovery to when players actually finish the DLC. Interested to know what you think of the idea. Keep up the good work. Kind regards, Tenny. So, thank you very much for that email. Really appreciate it. And it does spark quite an interesting discussion. I actually really like this idea and think I can really see it playing out in the GTA Online world that we currently have now. They could introduce a new character that we haven't heard of that just pops up and gives you some missions. I think it would be smarter to not mention the connection at all and just have them as a new mission giver in GTA Online. You do it all, and then when you eventually get to 6, people who have played that go, oh wow, that was the person that I was getting missions off in GTA Online 5 months ago or whatever. The problems are that I don't think GTA Online in its current form is going to get any more major upgrades before the release of GTA 6. Not like, major upgrades. It will get updates and that kind of stuff, but I don't see it having another huge expansion in terms of a Doomsday Heist type package. However, we have seen this type of mechanic used before. They added the treasure hunt mission as part of the Doomsday Heist update, which served as a teaser for Red Dead 2 back in the day, where you had to go around, find some clues. Eventually, it led you to a random treasure chest location that was marked on your map, and then you got a double-action revolver out of the treasure chest, which was one of the guns that eventually you got to use in Red Dead. So it's something that they have toyed with before, and if I was being really stretching, I would say that Red Dead 2 treasure hunt was almost a test to what might be possible in terms of like promotion going forwards. So could we see something like this again? I'm going to say yes, I think so. And possibly on a bigger scale than just in the grand scheme of things, what was a small treasure hunt. I think adding a new character in is cool. I think adding some collectibles would be cool that all lead up together to do a thing. I don't know if you think this is a good thing or not, but I can see it really bringing some of the people back to GTA Online that maybe like dipped off and are waiting for 6. This would be a great way to pull everyone back into that community.
Yeah, I think this is what I was thinking in terms of the push and pull of it. GTA Online, depends on the stats you believe, it's got active users of about, say, 20 million. GTA 5 in its opening few weeks sold 200 million copies. So you'd only be reaching potentially 10% of the total purchasers of GTA 6. It's actually quite a narrow marketing channel. It's 10% of the audience. You could say they're the early adopters, the influencers. That information was spread and be reported multiply.
Yeah.
It is a way you could do it. But then there's then the question within that, like you said, of how overtly GTA 6y do you make it? I think you need to make it quite GTA 6y to generate the interest and the buzz. But if you do that, I think it then creates, I think, the wrong first impression of GTA 6. Because if your first view of GTA 6 or the world of GTA 6 is through the lens of the 13-year-old GTA Online engine, I don't think that's setting it off on the right foot. So I don't think it's impossible. I just think they'd have to be quite cleverly constructed, and like you say, maybe even so you're not consciously aware that you're uncovering a thing, or as part of a bigger media activations. There's lots of things ongoing, and this thing is just for super hardcore players, but there's a more mainstream thing. There's probably a way to use it. Now, I guess what the flip of all of that is to say we're very definitely doing something GTA 6y and online, as in, please sign up, and you've got to sign up to GTA Plus to get it. There is that crude incentivization they could use to get more people online and ready. I still think it's a bit complex and might annoy people. So I don't know, but I like the thinking. I do think it's interesting.
I mean, the argument would be that they did it for Red Dead. They introduced people to the world of Red Dead 2 via GTA Online, via a pretty standard treasure hunt mechanic, and that didn't really dampen anyone's thinking or expectations about Red Dead 2, even though it looks significantly different to GTA Online. Like, it wasn't even a go to this forest, find a horse type thing. It wasn't really that connected. Like, the box you got was branded from one of the brands that are in Red Dead, and you got a revolver, but it wasn't really that explicit. You knew it was a Red Dead 2 quest, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, something like even small changes to GTA Online where, something at the beach changes, or posters start going up to say, like, visit Leonida.
Yeah.
Or something that, like, starts to bring the worlds together.
Yes.
You can see that kind of thing happening.
I think that's a good idea. It's a fun thing. And then it also is the question of, are you teasing at just the next game as a standalone product, or are you genuinely trying to create the illusion of a connected universe? Because that's what we don't, that's another thing we don't know is, will GTA Online, and I think it probably will, just be Leonida, but there might be a world where they go, well, it's Leonida and Los Santos and Liberty City, and all those things could be in the pipeline. And then maybe they become truly interwoven. This is where it's like really exciting and also drives you mad, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's so many unknowns that we could speculate on for hours. And I'm sure everybody listening has already done a lot of speculation about this kind of thing. If you've got any of those speculations that you want to tell us, you can write them in the comments below if you're listening or watching on YouTube. Otherwise, you can get in touch with us on Twitter at GTAVOclock. Or you can send us an email at gtavio'clock@gmail.com. Just before we go, Dan, one more shout out for the newsletter.
Yeah, head to gamesradar.com/newsletter, and then you have to scroll about and find the GTA 6 o'clock newsletter. Or I pinned the newsletter link to the comments last week. You can do the same, or it's pinned to our X profile. So please do sign up. We talk about some of the same things as the core show, but because it's written a day afterwards, often news breaks afterwards, so we can add a few new little layers to that conversation.
Of course, if anything does happen before next week's show in terms of announcements or trailer drops, we will come back with a special episode. And if not, please come back next week where we'll be here with another episode of GTA 6 o'clock.